Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Greg, alcoholic? Okay, this is the coolest thing ever. You got me between two ferns. Right? I'm between two ferns right now. This is fantastic. That is great. For anybody that doesn't know, it's one of the funniest shows ever in the history on the internet with Zach Galifianakis. Between two ferns. All right, that's good. I'm so grateful to be a part of Alcoholics Anonymous. I am so grateful for this program. I would not be alive without it today. 100%. Because I had gotten down at the end, I got down to 118 pounds. And I'm an alcoholic, but I was also doing crystal meth. I got down to 118 pounds, and I would go days on end without drinking or eating. And I got down to 118 pounds. I was missing a few teeth, and I was dying. And here I am, 17 years later. 182 pounds. A little too much, man. Right in here. When you get my age, it's you can't get rid of that little last midsection. Is hard to get rid of. But I weigh 182 pounds. When it ended for me, I got down to 118 pounds. I was missing a few teeth from smoking meth, and I lost my driver's license for getting in an accident with no insurance. I lost my career, liquidated my 401k. Was basically homeless. I was living out of my car. And I lost everything of value in life, including my self-esteem and self-worth and my desire to live. And I had gotten to the point where I was like, you know what? It's over. I'm just going to ride it out to the bitter end. And all those dreams and hopes of, having a great career, maybe, having a family, all those great dreams, and I had given up. And I came to the realization that those things were no longer going to be part of my story. And I was going to ride it out to the bitter end. And today I'm 17 years clean and sober. I weigh 181-ish, something like that. And I haven't drank or used drugs in 17 and a half years, something like that, 17 and a few months. I quit smoking cigarettes 15 years ago. I got my teeth fixed. I got all my teeth fixed, 6 implants, veneers. I got all that fixed. I have a great job. My job, I'll tell you about that later. I have the greatest. If there was any job that I could possibly pick, besides professional baseball player, this would be my job. And I'll tell you about that later. And I'm relatively happy. And Allie, thank you. Allie's a good friend of mine. And thank you for your share. And I identified with it so much, and Rosa, the thoughts, the negative thoughts, and just because I got sober doesn't mean life ain't easy. Life's hard sometimes, And what I'm trying to avoid is when things are going good, and my mind is making up all these reasons why it's not. That false sense of truth that my head tells me, and which makes me miserable. That's where I'm at. I'm like really trying to focus in on emotional sobriety and being happy and being able to live in joy and happiness. And when things aren't going well, I can get through it with grace and dignity. And when things are slow, I don't make up stories and but it's hard. It's just hard. And what a miracle this program is. The last time I came to this program was probably around 10 years ago. To this meeting was about 10 years ago. So it's good to be back. And it's just a miracle, just a miracle. I went and visited my mom a few weeks ago. My mom's 83, and my dad's, they're My mom and dad are both 80. My mom's 82. My mom's 83. My dad's 82. And they have a cabin up in the mountains, and there's pine trees everywhere. And so every year they have to rake the pine trees. My dad's getting old. It's hard for him to do it. So I went over there and I raked 28 bags of pine needles from my parents. And I cannot even tell you how much anxiety and grief I caused them. So for once, you know, for the past 17 years, I'm doing pretty good, but I got to go over there and just be a service. They didn't ask me to do anything. I just went out and I raked 28 bags of pine needles for them. My dad they were super happy. And my mom just, you know, she's incredible. And I'm so happy to have a relationship with them. And, you know, they live in Northern California. I try to go visit them, you know, 3 or 4 times a year. I talk to them once or twice a week. You know, this is all temporary, you know, and I don't want to, you know, what AA has given me, it's given me the presence to appreciate it. So I make sure I call my parents. We're not a very emotional family, but I make sure I always call my parents and talk to them and see how they're doing. I'm really present for life. And, you know, here's the question. Was I born an alcoholic, or did I do enough alcohol and drugs to become one? And I don't know the answer to that question, and I'm sure we can all have different paths, you know, to that destination. But I know for me that I was probably born with it. And the reason I can share that is because the signs were there when I was a little kid, just like Ali had spoken about. I remember when I was a little kid, one of my very first memories was my mom gave me Flintstone vitamins. And, oh man, you know those Flintstone vitamins, huh? Right? Oh yeah. And she gave me a few of the Flintstone vitamins, and I was probably like 5 years old, and I liked them. I'm like, oh my God, these are amazing, right? So I waited till my mom left, and I like planned it out. And I remember I got a chair, and I climbed up to the cabinet, and I ate the whole bottle, right? And I ate the whole bottle. And my brother Steve, which I'll talk about a little bit later, he's like, I'm telling, he found out. He's like, I'm telling Mom, you're busted, man. So I ran in the backyard and I hid in the bushes, right? And they put together, they couldn't find me, so they put together an Amber Alert for me, which basically back in my day was, let's get all the kids in the neighborhood and look for Greg, you know? So I'm hiding in the bushes. I can still see this so perfectly, right? I'm hiding in the bushes, and my job, my career is I'm a stand-up comedian, so I do a joke about this sometimes. You know, I finally had to come out and turn myself in because I was jonesing for more Flintstones. And but the truth is, I saw this kid going bush to bush to bush, and I remember how scared I was. I remember that feeling. And then he found me. He's like, here he is, we got him. And like all the kids ran over and like, you're busted, man. And I remember they took me to my mom, and my mom's like, you ate all the Flintstones? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, don't do it again. And I'm like, okay. And so my very first bust for substance abuse was Flintstones when I was 5. You know, and an early, musk and pot or whatever, when Bill goes and sees a little sign, that was an early sign for me that I had something different with me. And, you know, by the time I reached 6th grade, I was dealing candy to support my sugar habit. And at one point in time, I was the #1 distributor of Now and Later's, Hubba Bubba, and Jolly Ranchers at Abbott Middle School to support my candy habit. Remember Pop Rocks? I was moving kilos of that shit, man. But it turns out I'm a horrible candy dealer because I kept eating up my own supply. A lesson I would learn a few years later with cocaine. And but you know, I share that story because there's just something different in my brain when it comes to things that make me feel good. You know, things that give me pleasure, I abuse it. And it's just always been that way. It's just always been that way. And so I think for me, in my story, these were the early signs that I was going to have a problem with substance abuse. And it was, my first addiction was candy and was sugar. And, you know, and of course, you know, teeth and the dentist have played a large impact on my life, which I'll talk about the dentist in a little bit. Remind me to talk about the dentist. And, you So I started drinking and using drugs when I was a little kid. I remember the first time I got high, sitting in the chair. I smoked pot in a windmill in the 3rd grade, but I don't remember it affecting me. But I remember the first time it really affected me. I remember the chair I was sitting in, and I remembered the feeling. I don't remember a lot of things about childhood, but these are very vivid memories for me. And I also remember when there was consequences for my candy addiction. I started getting cavities, and I remember I went to the dentist, and they gave me nitrous for the first time. Does anybody have nitrous? And laughing gas. And I remember they gave me the laughing gas, and I fell off into this dream that I was on a Vikings helmet. And he had these horns, and I was like wrapped around this Vikings helmet, and he was running down some stairs and towards this Viking ship. And I could hear the dentist every once in a while saying, "Open your mouth, open your mouth, open your mouth." And I would be like, and I remember this so perfectly. At one point in time, it felt like I was on my head and my feet were straight in the air. And it was like Disneyland on steroids, right? It was incredible. And I remember the nitrous wore off, and I was like, whoa, like, what was that? Like, what was that? I want that. I want this. I want this forever. And going to the dentist was good news for me as growing up as a kid, until my mom changed dentists and they didn't offer nitrous. And fast forward to my adult life, not anymore, but before I got sober, this is how I choose a dentist. "Hi, I'm looking for a new dentist. Do you guys offer nitrous?" "Oh, you don't? Okay, goodbye." "Hi, I'm looking for a new dentist. Do you guys offer nitrous?" "Oh, you do? Great. Do you have anything in like 15 minutes? I could be there in like 15. And I just, I've always had a search for the greater, I love the nitrous, I love the mushrooms, and the acid was a little heavy, but I love that I knew there was something greater than myself out there. And I would get these little moments of clarity and realizations. And I remember when I was at the dentist one time before I got sober, and they gave me the nitrous, and I had a moment of clarity, a realization, and a thought came to me, like a thought that I can't even describe was, "You're going to die. If you keep doing this, you're going to die." And I always felt like those hallucinogen type of drugs allowed me to access the subconscious. And but I was cheating. I was using alternative means. And now, today I do seek God and higher power and spirituality and the meaning of life and all these things. But I seek it through healthy means: meditation, prayer, service. I have a very healthy relationship with spirituality today. And that ayahuasca, the frog poison or whatever, that always kind of like, that would be kind of, but I'm like, you know what? I abused my privilege. I can no longer do any of that type of stuff. And now I'm like a very spiritual person. I meditate 20 minutes twice a day. It's incredible. And I can, it's just incredible. But I started drinking and doing drugs when I was a kid. And, just like Ali said, it made me not care. It made me handsome. It allowed me to talk to girls. It made me popular. I just loved the way it makes me feel. I love the way alcohol and drugs make me feel. I love it. Love it. And I've been searching for that first nitrous high for my entire life. I've been searching for that first weed high, that first drunk. I've been searching for that forever. And sometimes I'd find it, but what happened is I started overshooting the mark. And, I used to be able to control it to some extent, Once I got started, I always had to have something. I smoked weed every day. I'd drink to blackouts, sometimes. And, the way that, I went to my first rehab when I was 19 years old. And had a problem with alcohol. I'd go out, I'd get drunk. And I was 19, and then I'd get a bag of Coke. My friend was a Coke dealer. And I'd stay up all night, and then it'd be like 6 or 7 in the morning, and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. Like, I'm never doing this again. This is the worst. The first line was good, but everything after that was terrible. Or, 3, 4 a.m. onward was pretty bad. And I'd be like, okay, that's it. never doing this again. And then like 4 days later, I sober up, I forget about it, and I go out with my friends, and next thing you know, I'm drunk, I get a bag of Coke, I stay up all night again. I'm like, okay, seriously, that's it. That's the last one. And then I do it again and again and again. And so I checked myself into rehab when I was 19. And I went to rehab and I got sober, I think, for like 6 months. And I remember going to AA meetings, and I remember how happy people were. And I remember like getting in a circle, holding hands and saying the Lord's Prayer, which I thought was weird. And then I remember after this one meeting, like all these people came up and like were giving me their phone number and getting my phone number. I'm like, what the hell's going on here, man? What do these people want from me? And but I saw people get sober, and so I got sober for like 3 to 6 months. I was young and wasn't ready yet, and I was a good baseball player, and I ended up going to college to play baseball, and baseball really kept me out of serious trouble with my alcohol and drug use, because I had to maintain a 2.0 GPA in order to be eligible. Baseball was my life. Ever since I was a little kid, baseball was my passion. And I ended up going to college. I played 4 years of college baseball. But, I'd go out and drink and do drugs on the weekends. I'd smoke weed every day during the week. And there were problems sometimes, but I was always able to, manage it. And I graduated college. I went to work at my favorite radio station. It was a radio station that I grew up listening to. It's called KOM. You guys know K-Rock. It was K-Rock's sister station in the San Francisco Bay Area in San Jose. My first job was selling rock music, and I've been a huge music fan my whole life. And now all of a sudden I'm working at my favorite radio station, selling rock music, advertising at Howard Stern. And I got really drunk in my second week there at backstage at one of our shows. I think it was like the Chili Peppers or something. I got really drunk and got kicked out, and I hadn't sold anything yet. And I just remember like, oh my God, I just got my dream job and I'd lost it already. And the general manager the next day showed up at my desk, and he's like, hey man, I heard you were swinging from the chandeliers last night. And I'm like, yeah. And so I'm like, I'm so sorry. And he's like, listen, don't do it again. This is your warning. And I was careful. I was careful around those events, and I excelled in the radio industry. I became a really good salesperson, and I did really well. And but I just started, that partying started increasing, and it started bleeding into Monday and Tuesday, and and it started getting worse and worse. And the beginning at the end happened for me. I was dating this girl, and I found a meth pipe on her, and I'm like, you smoke this stuff? Like I'd snorted it before, speed before, but smoking, I'm like. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, she's a junkie, right? I'm dating a junkie, or a tweaker, I guess is the right term. And I confronted her with it. I'm like, what is wrong with you? And she's like, she goes, I do it once in a while. You want to try it? And I'm like, all right. And I took a hit off that meth pipe, and boy, did it feel good. Just like that day in that dentist chair, when I was a little kid. And slowly but surely, I lost it all. And I moved to LA. I'm from the Bay Area. I moved to LA to try to get away from it. Turns out you guys got it down here too. I went on a job interview with ABC, and I'm going to get sober in a second, but I went on a job interview with ABC, and I was wearing this suit, and I put the meth in my pocket, right? And I think I'd been up for a couple days or whatever. My resume was very good, and so I think I killed the interview, right? And it turns out there was a hole in my suit pocket. This is KABC on La Cienega, owned by Disney, right? And so, the meth fell out my pant leg in his office, and we're walking out, and he goes, what's this? And he held it up right in front of me, and I snatched it right out of his hand. And I said, vitamins. I should have said Flintstones. I snatched it right out of his hand. And he's like, okay, let me show you to the door. And he escorted me out. And it's so funny you guys laugh at that, because I tell normal people that story, and they're like, oh my God. And he escorted me out, and holy smokes, man. Holy smokes. The book mentions pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. Holy smokes, did I feel bad. And I ended up going to work. I moved back home, went to work for another radio station. My buddy ran it, and he was GM, and he kept trying to help me, get me in sober living, and I fucked him over. And then I ended up living out of my car, teeth falling out, lost my career, and I was dying, and I gave up. And I got arrested for possession of a controlled substance, and I had to go do drug tests every Wednesday. And after like 4 dirty tests, he said, okay, you're going to do some time. You come in next dirty test, we're just going to take you in, you're going to do, 4 or 6 months or something. And I said, okay. And so I decided to check myself into rehab. They gave me the option to go to rehab. I checked myself into rehab. So I checked myself into this place that was called the Comeback Treatment Center in Anaheim. So I was a theater actor also. I worked in radio, and I was a theater actor. I was in the Actors Theater in San Francisco, and my dream was to work in entertainment. So I was gonna. So I found a place in LA, right? But it's actually Anaheim, which I didn't know wasn't LA. And I overshot. I accidentally bought too much meth, and so I ended up showing up. My brother was picking me up at the Orange County Airport, and I had a bag of meth down my pants. It's a long story, but I ended up breaking out of the rehab I checked myself into, and my brother caught me leaving, and he chased me in his truck, and it was a freaking disaster. And I ended up took a bus and a train to a hotel in Sunset. I actually hung out with the girl that introduced me to the meth the very first time, and that was on February 13th of 2000. That was February 12th of 2007. And then I had done a little meth the next morning, and on the 13th, and then I bus and trained back into that rehab. And so my sobriety date is Valentine's Day of 2007. So nothing says you're a loser like getting sober on Valentine's Day, huh? And but I was a good kid, man. I always had these dreams and aspirations to do great things in this world. And I lost my ability to function in society. And I decided to go to rehab because I didn't want to go to jail, one, and also because I thought I thought the program was so you can get your life back. That's what I thought it was for. And so I walked into this rehab, and I gave up. I surrendered. And on February 13th of 2007, I walked into this rehab. And, I'm paraphrasing, but somewhere in the book, there was a study done that's on like 10,000 alcoholics. And they tried to figure out what was the one common thread and people that had gotten sober. What was the one common thing? And what they had found, maybe it was Carl Jung, or I'm not sure, but what they had found was a total collapse of the human ego, is the way it was referred, a total collapse of the human ego. And that's what happened to me. It was a total surrender. My prayers before were, God, if you get me out of this one, I'll never do this again. And I'd do it again. Even though I had the best intentions, my actions couldn't match it. And this time it was, help me. I don't know what to do. And I just gave up. And I started taking direction, and they started telling me to make my bed every morning. I made my bed. They told me to do dishes on, Tuesday nights. I do the dishes. I got a big book. They told me to read the book. I read the book. Someone had told me in early sobriety, pray every night for 2 weeks. I want you to say this prayer. Please remove the desire to drink and use drugs from me. And I did that for every day for 2 weeks. And you know what? It worked. The thoughts didn't go away. I don't really think about it that much anymore. Every once in a while, the less I go to meetings and all that stuff, the more I think about it. But I don't really. Alcohol and drugs is not a problem for me today. It could be, but the compulsion. Here's the way the compulsion, what it means to me. The compulsion, that powerlessness was me driving in my car down the street. I got a job interview or the work thing next day or something to do the next day, and I'm like. The thought gets in my head, alcohol or meth or coke or whatever, just the thought gets in my head, and boom, I'm going there. That thought to reaction at the end was 0. 24/7. I think it, I use it, I have zero power to stop myself. I am completely powerless. And what happened when I checked into rehab and I gave up and I surrendered and I prayed, for the desire to drink and use to be removed, there was a little bit of space, a tiny little space, where I'd think it. I thought it every day, all day. I'd think it, and I'd be like, oh, that sounds good. How am I going to get out? How do I get money? Whatever. But there was this little bit of space from that thought to going and doing it. And I look at that little space as God's grace. I was given the grace and the opportunity to get sober. And for me to keep it, that God's grace, I've had to do the work. And what's happened over a period of time, that little tiny space of that thought to drinking and using, I pray, I meditate, I do service work, I go to meetings, I help people, that space has gotten very, very, very far today. I can honestly say this with every fiber in my body. I am in absolutely zero chance of drinking and using today. It would be impossible for me to take a hit off a joint or drink a sip of alcohol or do a hit of meth today. It would be impossible, absolutely physically impossible for me to do that today. There's no possible way I could do that. But I am not cured of alcoholism. It could come back. If I stop praying, I stop meditating, stop going to meetings, I stop helping people, selfishness, self-centered, what's going to end up happening is one of two things. And I know me, one of two things. Someone's going to pass me a joint or a drink, and I'm going to take it without even thinking, because I'm going to forget. But I know what's going to happen for me. I'm going to become so miserable and so uncomfortable in my mind and my body that I don't care what the consequences are. I need it to survive, because I cannot stand another second in the way I'm feeling, and I'll drink and use again. I know it. But I've developed, AA's given me this, I've developed this additional sense. Like, I feel that space closing. I feel it, and what it looks like for me when that space is closing is anxiety, depression, selfishness, self-centered. I can feel it, myself getting closer to a drink or a drug. And what AA has given me the tools, it's helped me increase that space again. Prayer, meditation, jail panels. I've done a lot of jail panels. Jail panels, that's the easiest way. 2 jail panels, boom, I'm good. It's fast, real fast. And so for 17 years, I have not stopped working a program. I go to 3 to 7 meetings a week. I meditate 20 minutes twice a day. I pray every night before I go to bed. I do a lot of service work. I have sponsees. I got really involved in H&I, and I've been doing AA for 17 years. And why would something that made me feel this incredible, why would I stop doing this? Something that's given me a life beyond my wildest dreams, And I spent 56 days in that rehab. I got out. I moved into a sober living home on the corner of Pico and Fairfax. Like I said, I wanted to follow my dreams to work in entertainment. And I had no money. I had no driver's license. I had a roommate that snored, like really loud. He called me the other day. It was so funny. And but man, we just made AA our primary. We would just go to meetings, man. We would gamble in meetings, right? We're all broke, right? But we'd have there was one of the meetings that was called Out of the Hat, where people draw numbers and we gamble. We each pick 3 people, and it's $5 a head if they pick their number and shit. This is a bad example, but we were having fun. We'd walk to meetings. I had no money, so I'd bus to meetings. I'd go to 3 meetings a day, 10 a.m., 12 noon, 7 p.m. every day, Monday through Friday. On the weekends, I'd take the bus out to the beach. I'd go to the Grove, go on little outings and stuff, and I just made AA my primary purpose in life. And I got a sponsor. I started working the steps. And I don't have time to go through all the steps, but I want to tell you this. The steps are what changed me as a human being. The steps. That's what did it for me. That changed everything about me. I am a 180-degree different person than I was when I came into this program. I still know very little, but I knew a lot less back then, I can tell you that. AA, the steps have changed my life. And I'll tell you one story about the steps. I got a sponsor. I did 4th and 5th, all that stuff. I started cleaning up took the inventory, got rid of a lot of the stuff that I didn't need. But I got to the 8th and 9th step, and I made a list of all the people I had harmed. And I started, going out to my ex-girlfriends that I didn't treat properly, and I, admitted my behavior was wrong, asked them how I can fix it. All the people I owed money to, I started working in advertising again. I started paying them back, and I just became willing. I was willing to go to any lengths, and used to collect coins when I was a little kid. I have a Roman penny that's like 2,000 years old, right? It's only worth like 30-something bucks, but I don't care. Somebody like bought an apple with this in Rome, you know? I'm like, someone bought an apple with this in Rome, right? Like at the market, you know, and like next to the Colosseum or something. And I just love thinking about the history behind these old coins. You know, I got all these like silver dollars and silver quarters and Indian nickels and stuff. I was just fascinated by what was it like during those times, you know? And so I had amassed this little coin collection. And my grandma, when she was alive, she saved all of her coins all of her life. And she had this huge box of all these silver quarters and dimes and nickels and quarters and dollars and stuff. And my grandma died, and she left those coins to my mom. And my mom always told me, you know, these coins are yours when we pass. And but towards the end of my drinking and using, I ran out of money, and I went in my mom's closet after my grandma died, and I started stealing my grandma's coins. And I started pawning them, taking them to the pawn shop and getting loans against them. And I went through a lot. And my mom realized I was stealing the coins, and she confronted me. And she said, "You're taking Nona's coins? Like, what happened to you? What happened to you, Greg?" And I remember looking at my mom's eyes that day. And I remember having a moment of clarity and realizing that I was killing my mom. I was killing her. Through worry and stress and anxiety and lack of sleep. I was literally taking years off my mom's life. And I love my mom. And it was devastating. So when I first got sober, you know, I would think of those coins, man, and I would get this ball in my stomach, man. Just this shame. Just self-hate. Just shame for the coins and, you know, and you know, all the stuff I did, and, you know, just this shame and guilt and remorse. I just hated myself for that. But I got to the 8th and the 9th step, and I one of the most profound things I've done in Alcoholics Anonymous is I went back to that pawn shop, and I bought every single one of my grandma's coins back, and I returned them all of them. I got them all back. And I want to share this because a lot of people have come up to me after and said, "I stole my grandma's ring and I could never get it back." And, you know, and in this case, I was able to get those coins back. But the things that I can't make amends for, I do service work to make up for it. So if you've done things you can't make amends for, so have I. But this thing, I got those coins back and I returned them to my mom. And here's what happened as a result of working that 9th step. Halfway through that 9th step, talks about the promises. Here's what happened. Now when I think of those coins, I don't have that shame. I don't have that guilt. I don't have that remorse. I'm good. I'm good. I'm free. I did that with everything I possibly could. And what happened as a result is I have a complete freedom most of the time, you know. And I had this overwhelming sense of freedom and comfort in my body and my mind that I've never I experienced maybe through false means, but just that serenity and that peace. And I had that as a result of working the 9th step. I got to the 10th, I did, you know, I've done all the steps. I do all the steps continuously. But I got another profound experience as I got to the 12th step, and my sponsor said, now you got to help people. You got to carry the message. You got to practice these principles in all your affairs. You got to live right. You got to be a good person, and you got to help people. And, you know, and so figure it out. Figure your journey out. And so I heard about this thing called H&I, and which stands for Hospitals and Institutions, and we bring literature and meetings out to people. And I went through the orientation, and I spoke on this panel at the Claire Foundation. I remember, and I was probably a year sober, and there's 3 of us, and there was this woman sitting in the front row, and she was tore up, like bawling and crying, and like and I just remembered looking at her. I just remembered staring at her, just going, oh my God, I know that feeling. I know what she's going through. And we shared our story, and after that meeting, after that panel, I went up to her and I said, hey, I go, everything's gonna be okay. And she smiled. And I had another moment of clarity. I realized, oh my God, I have something to offer. Through my experience, I can bring hope to people that don't have hope. Then I heard you can go into jails, and I used to love watching like Locked Up, you know, all those shows and stuff. I had a fascination with prisons, and I really did. Now I know why, because it's been a huge part of my life now. But I'm like, hell yeah, I want to go into the jails, right? So like a couple years after I was clean and sober, after I was in jail, I got cleared to speak in jails, right? And if it makes me feel good, I abuse it. So I started like speaking on like 9 panels a month. And, but man, I just love going in there. And for people would say, oh, I love when you come out and the doors close behind you when you leave. Not for me. Not for me. I like walking in. I like those doors closing behind me when I'm walking in, because I know that I'm bringing hope to people that don't have it. And I met this kid in there one night, and I met him, and he was getting out on Friday. He asked me what to do, and I said, I go, come meet me at this meeting. It's called Rodeo on Friday night, and I'll introduce you to some people. And he didn't show up. About 4 months later, I'm at the Rodeo meeting, and I see this kid staring at me. I'm like, who the fuck is that? And he runs over to me, and he's like, hey, do you remember me? And I'm like, no. He's like, from jail. And I'm like, oh, dude, what's up, man? I'm like, yeah, I remember you, man. And he goes, hey, man, I got out, I started drinking again. He goes, I hit another bottom. I came to this meeting looking for you. You weren't here. I raised my hand as a newcomer. He goes, all these people surrounded me. They got me into a sober living. He goes, I'm sober 3 months. And I'm like, wow. A year after that, I was at the log cabin, and I was sitting in the back, and he was the speaker. He was the opening speaker. And he shared the story how he was introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous in jail from H&I. And he said, and there was one person that said something on that panel that saved my life. And he looked at me and he smiled. And I had another moment of clarity. I realized that AA is not just about my job, my career, or getting my life back or whatever. I realized it's all those things. You know, I have to be a good example. I have to be a good person and pay my bills and live right. And I got to do all those things so I could be a good example of AA. I had to do the 8th and the 9th step, so I had that moment of clarity and that freedom, so I could have a message of death and weight and live a free life. And but ultimately, I realized that day that this program is about service. That's what AA has given me. It's given me a life of service, which I didn't know. I didn't know I wanted. I didn't know I wanted that. And I've been in the jails over 300 times. I became the director of jails for H&I. And then I was the director of H&I. And then I got a call from New York one day. They asked me, they knew I was really involved. I became really good friends with the head sheriff of LA County Jails. We became really good friends. She was sober. And they asked me if I can help produce the corrections video for AA in New York. And I did. I helped produce it. We went in the LA County Jails. I helped produce it. That video is now on AA.org, and it's going to be shown in jails and prisons in the United States and Canada for the next 20 years. And I got to play a part in it and help. What an incredible journey. I also want to share this. I started dating in early sobriety. I told you I talked about the dentist. I started dating in early sobriety, probably a little too soon because I hadn't got my teeth fixed yet. I'd be so embarrassed on these first dates. I'm like, oh, it's really good to meet you. They're like, why are you talking like that? Like, I got real bad teeth. And they'll be like, let me see. And they'd be like, ah, and like run out of Starbucks. But on my third eHarmony date, I met Nicole. And she was beautiful. She was gorgeous. And she was a dentist. She was a dentist. And I do a joke about this. I knew it was going to be great because the first time I smiled, she's like, oh my God, your teeth are a mess. I think it turned her on, she had some weird dental fetish thing. And I ended up getting my teeth done. And so I do a joke about it. Here's the joke. I said, well, you know, she was incredible. I'd sit in the dentist chair. She'd hide the Novocaine needle behind her back and like sneak it around and do this little wiggle lip thing. And she was like so gentle. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so in love with this girl. And then, but we started having relationship problems. She started making me brush my teeth 5 times a day, floss after every meal. And then she told me I had to quit drinking coffee. And I'm like, okay, you know what? This relationship is over. But I hung in there for an extra 1.5 years. So I still needed 2 root canals and a bridge. And then she dumped me. She dumped me when she finished, but I got a new set of teeth out of it. So, and the joke is, 2 weeks ago I threw up my back, so I'm on Tinder looking for a chiropractor right now. And it's almost time for a prostate exam. So I created a Grindr profile for that. All right. So I had to throw in a little comedy. I'm a stand-up comedian. But anyway, so I got 3 minutes left. Life is fun, you know? Life is fun. I went bowling and I bowled a 208 the other day. Can you fucking believe that? I bowled a 208. Life is fun. And I was at a meeting one day, and my friend Glenn, he introduced me to this newcomer, and he said to me, he goes, hey, will you give this newcomer a ride home after the meeting? And I thought to myself, this is what I thought. I remember the thought. Why don't you give him a ride home? Why are you asking me? You got a car. And but I said yes. And I gave this newcomer a ride home. And he had no car. His car was broken down. And so I started picking him up. I started taking him to meetings. He had no money. And so I'm like, do you have groceries at home? And he's like, no. I'm like, all right, man, I'm going to take you grocery shopping. I'm like, where do you shop, dude? I'll take you there. This dude took me to Whole Foods. I'm like, dude, you were snorting coke off a public toilet seat 3 weeks ago, and now all of a sudden you only eat organic? I'm like, come on, dude. What the hell, man? But I bought him these groceries, and it turns out we became friends. It turns out he was a stand-up comedian. And I used to go by myself to the Comedy Store. Never crossed my mind. You know, I was a theater actor, and, you know, that was my dream, and never crossed my mind. But he invited me to this show, and like half the comedians up there were terrible, right? And I'm like, dude, I could tell drug stories and be as funny as half of those guys, man. And he's like, you want to try it? I'm like, okay. And I knew, because I had spoken so many times in jails, you know, I knew I had some stories that were pretty funny and I could make people laugh. And so he put me up at a beginner show a week and a half later. And I get up on stage, it's at the Comedy Store, and I tell some drug stories. And then I wrapped it up with a recovery message. And the host comes up, you know, people high-five me. The host comes back up on the stage, and he's like, holy shit, man. He goes, I didn't know this was an AA meeting. That was on February 13th of 2000. That was on September 12th of 2013, the very first time I took the stage. And 4 years ago, I was at a meeting, and Jim introduced me to a cast member from SNL. He invited me to lunch. I sat next to him. We became friends. And 4 years ago, I quit my day job. And today, I'm a professional touring stand-up comedian. That's what I do for a living. And he introduced me to this guy, this cast member from SNL, second longest cast member in history. We became friends. My brother died in 2019. He's in a better place. And this cast member in SNL called me and checked up on me every day. During the pandemic, we hung out every day. And he took me under his wing. And he started taking me on tour once the pandemic lifted. I've been all over the country opening for this cast member from SNL. And now this is my job, you know. And I produce a show. I'm going to name drop real quick. I produce a show. It's an SNL alumni show. I'm the producer and host of the show. And it's at the Hollywood Improv. And I was doing a show. And that was my favorite show growing up. I loved SNL. And I'm doing this show, and I'm backstage in the green room, sitting around with Dana Carvey, David Spade, Kevin Nealon, and Jay Moore, working with them. And I just thought to myself, how did this happen? How did this happen? You know how it happened? I gave a newcomer a ride home. My whole life changed from being of service to another human being and giving a newcomer a ride home. What if I was selfish and self-centered that day? I'm so fucking grateful. So grateful that this program gave me a life beyond my wildest dreams, a difficult life, a fun life, a happy life, a sad life, a everything life. But I am present for it every day to the best of my ability, and I can honestly tell you, because of this program and the 12 steps, today I am the best version of myself that I have ever been. And I still know a little, and I have a lot of work to do, and I'm going to find my journey through the Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 steps. Thank you, guys.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. And if that shows up, the gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.